Today, we are going on a pretty wild journey. We're going to tackle one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask, but we're leaving faith and scripture at the door. Instead, we're going to use pure, cold, hard logic to see if we can build a case from the ground up for a universe that's actually built on inescapable love. So, let's see just where the logic takes us.
So, here it is. This is the big, audacious question at the heart of our journey. Now, this isn't about what we hope is true or what feels good. It's about what we can actually prove. Is it possible to reason our way from the simple fact that, things change, all the way to a conclusion like universal salvation? It sounds like a stretch, but let's find out. To get there, we're going to climb what I like to call a logical ladder. It's got 5 steps. And the important thing is, each step has to build directly on the one before it. We're going from the most basic thing we can observe about reality to a conclusion that is, frankly, pretty stunning. So let's take that first step.
All right, step 1. It all begins with something we see every single second of our lives: change. Or, if you want to use the fancy philosophical term, motion. The whole argument starts here, with the idea that this simple, undeniable fact of change, when you really dig into it, points to something that can't change at all.
So what even is change? Well, at its core, it's just turning a could-be into an is. Think about it. A log has the potential to be hot, but it can't just make itself hot. It needs something that's already hot, something that is actually hot, like a fire, to act on it. And the rule here is dead simple. You can't give what you don't have. A potential can't actualize itself.
Now, this is where a really interesting distinction comes in. You have what's called an accidentally ordered chain, like a family tree. A father has a son, the son has a grandson. That could, in theory, go back forever. But the kind of change happening right now works like an essentially ordered chain. Think about a hand moving a staff that's moving a stone. The stone is only moving right now because the staff is moving it. And the staff is only moving right now because the hand is moving it. If you take the hand away, the whole thing just stops, instantly. That kind of chain simply can't be infinite. It has to have a first mover.
And boom, that's our first big checkpoint. Just the simple logic of change has forced us to conclude that there must be some single, uncaused first cause that is pure actuality, something with no potential left to be realized. It doesn't need to become anything, it just is. Okay, we've got our first mover. Let's climb to the next rung. So, we've reasoned our way to this prime mover. But what is it? Is it just some blind force of nature, a cosmic equation, or is it something more? Step 2 is all about figuring out the nature of this thing.
And the very first conclusion we can draw is, honestly, it's staggering. This first cause has to be absolutely simple. It can't be made of parts. Because if it were made of parts, something would have had to put those parts together, and it wouldn't be the first cause anymore. And this has a huge implication. It means it doesn't just have attributes like power or goodness. It is power. It is goodness. They're not parts of it. They are it.
Now, another line of reasoning, the column argument, adds a really crucial layer here. It goes like this. If the universe had a beginning, then its cause must exist outside of time. But think about that for a second. How can something that's timeless and unchanging suddenly decide to create a universe that changes? The only logical answer is that it made a choice. It has to be a free agent, a personal will that can decide let there be. And just like that, our first cause goes from an impersonal force to a conscious person.
Okay, this next step is the major pivot point of the whole argument. We've used logic to get to a single, personal, all-powerful creator. But is it a good creator? Is it loving? Step 3 is going to argue that benevolence isn't just some optional extra. It's a logical necessity.
So how in the world do we get from a first cause to love? It all starts with this ancient philosophical idea. Goodness is self-diffusive. Now, goodness here doesn't just mean morally good. It means fullness of being, completeness, actuality. And the idea is that something that is fully actual, fully good, has to share itself. It's like heat from a fire or light from a star. It can't help but radiate outwards. It has to overflow.
And here is how that connects directly to love. If we define love, specifically agape, as the act of willing the good of another, well, what's the very first and most basic good you can give something? Existence itself. So the free act of creating and sustaining universe, of giving existence out of pure generosity, that is, by its very definition, an act of love.
This totally changes the picture. The God of this argument isn't some cosmic clockmaker who wound up the universe and then just walked away. No, this God is actively creating and sustaining all of reality. every particle, every moment, from instant to instant. That's not detachment. That is the most profound and radical intimacy you can possibly imagine.
So let's take a breath and hit our second checkpoint. Our logical ladder has now brought us to a single, personal, all-powerful first cause who isn't just good but is supreme goodness itself and is actively loving everything into existence moment by moment. Okay, we have that. Now for the fireworks. Let's see what happens when this logical conclusion smashes head-on into one of theology's toughest ideas.
This is it. This is the climax of the argument. What happens when the being we have just logically proven exists, a being of infinite power and active, sustaining love, is put right next to the concept of eternal, unending suffering?
What happens is you get a flat-out logical contradiction. I mean, just look at these three statements. You can't believe all of them at the same time. If God is all-loving, then he must want to save everyone. If he's all-powerful, then he has the ability to do what he wants. So, if those first 2 points are true, and our entire argument so far has been to prove that they are, then the third statement has to be false. It's a logical impossibility.
But I hear you ask, what about free will? That's the classic defense of hell, right? Well, this argument hits back by asking, what is freedom really? Is it just the random ability to choose between option A and option B? Or is it the freedom to achieve our purpose, the freedom for flourishing? I mean, think about it. Choosing eternal misery over infinite joy isn't a rational exercise of freedom. It's a sign of profound brokenness, of insanity. And a truly good and loving God, the argument concludes, would heal that insanity, not respect it for eternity.
And this is where the whole creating from nothing idea becomes absolutely critical. Let me put it this way. If a mechanic builds a car, and he knows with 100% certainty that its brakes are going to fail and cause a fatal crash, who's responsible for that crash? The mechanic is. In the exact same way, if an all-knowing God creates a person knowing that they could end up in an eternal tragedy, God bears the ultimate responsibility for that outcome. And for a being who is infinite goodness, creating something destined for failure is a moral impossibility.
Okay, we're on the final step of the ladder. Let's do a quick, rapid-fire round and address some of the toughest objections to this whole line of thinking, just to see if our logical structure can actually hold up under pressure.
First up, the big one, the classic objection. What if someone just doesn't want to be with God? They freely choose separation, and a loving God has to respect that choice, right?
The rebuttal here isn't emotional. It's purely metaphysical. You simply can't be separate from the very ground of your own being. Remember how God is constantly sustaining everything in existence? Well, to be totally separate from that sustaining power isn't separation, it's annihilation. It's not existence. So if you exist, you are by definition being sustained by God and therefore are not separate. This is probably the deepest and most profound moral challenge there is. What about truly horrendous evil, the kind that makes you question everything? If even one child suffers horribly and is then lost forever, hasn't evil won a final victory in that person's life?
And the logic here is just relentless. For God's act of creating that specific person to be considered a good thing for them, then their life, when you look at it as a whole from beginning to end, has to be a profound gift to them. And to overcome a true horror, you don't just need a little compensation, you need an infinite joy so great that it actually swallows up and defeats that horror. And that makes an eternal hell for anyone a moral failure on God's part. So, after climbing this entire ladder, we're left with one final staggering question. If you accept the premises, if you follow the chain of deduction step by step, from motion to a mover, from a cause to a creator, from goodness to love, does that mean that a universal, all-redeeming love isn't just a comforting belief we hold on to, but is actually the fundamental, logical, and inescapable engine of reality itself?